Your mission, should you choose to accept it, recovery of a stolen item designated Chimera.
Good evening, Mr. Hunt. IMF would be right that a shadow organization is committed to inciting revolution, also known as the Syndicate. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to face your fate. We are the Syndicate, Mr. Hunt, and now we know who you are. Pursue us, you will be caught. Resist us, you will be killed. Good luck, Mr. Hunt.
A man is doing some rough interrogation for a name because they need to wake the girl back up before it becomes dangerous. The man gives the name Dmitry Mediev to avoid the torture. They give him a sedative once they get the name, and the interrogator turns out to be Ethan Hunt. The girl named Claire wakes up after Ethan injects her with something, and Ethan is relieved she's okay. On the plane, Jim Phelps is given a mission to look for Alexander Golitsyn because he's a traitor who stole one half of the CIA knock list, which has records of all their deep cover agents.
He is also a traitor. He has stolen one half of the CIA knock list.
Luckily, the records were split into code names and true names. A team is already chosen for the mission, and if anybody is caught or killed, the US will deny any involvement. They want Jim to find proof of theft, the buyers, and to arrest them all. Jim arrives in Prague to meet up with the team to tell them what the mission is and starts telling them their assignment. They start roasting Jim on his cushy recruiting assignments because he is getting the luxury life while they're drinking cheap coffee. Jim steers it back to the mission because if anybody that's not the United States gets the names, a whole lot of agents are going to die.
If they're exposed, they'll be executed.
Jack gives Ethan gadgets for the mission, and the others set up a perimeter for the area they will monitor. At an evening party, Jack climbs up the elevator to hook up a device that messes with the security system. Sarah disguises herself as Miss Norman to guide Ethan, who is also in disguise, and she marks their target, Alexander. Hannah uses her spy glasses to find the marking and calls out where Alexander is going. Jack is stuck in a rough position when the elevator comes down, which makes it harder for Jack to break them in. A security comes to get Sarah's ID to see if she's on their database. Jack luckily uploads her ID into their database in time to let them get through. They reach the database to set up a spy camera, but Alexander is heading to the database also. Ethan and Sarah were too late to get back on the elevator, and Jack couldn't control it, so Jim had to help with their escape. Alexander arrives to transfer the data, and they get the recording of it. Ethan and Sarah leave the building and they want to secure the package. The elevator starts going up and Jack dies because no one can stop the elevator from going to the top. Alexander escapes the way Ethan did, and Jim wants them to hold on until Jim arrives, but he notices that they are being ambushed. Jim wants to abort the mission, but Ethan doesn't listen and wants to retrieve the package with Sarah's help. Sarah follows Alexander while Ethan rushes to Jim to back him up, but Ethan is too late and he finally orders to abort the mission. A couple monitors Sarah while she sees Alexander dragged to the gate, and when she walks closer, she sees Alexander getting terminated. Ethan runs to Claire, but the car blows up with her inside. He rushes to Sarah, but Sarah and Alexander are also neutralized. Police show up shortly after, and Ethan runs away to a payphone to tell Eugene Kittredge that his team has been wiped out because someone knew they were coming.
My team is dead!
Eugene will meet Ethan in an hour, and that got Ethan suspicious. Ethan goes to the meeting place and asks Eugene why there was another team because he recalls seeing a couple of IMF agents during their missions. Eugene tells Ethan there has been a mole in the IMF for over 2 years. They decoded a message from Max, the arms dealer who corrupts good agents and was planning to buy the knock list. Eugene set up a mole hunt, believing Ethan is the mole because he is the sole survivor of the mission and recently received a lot of money. Eugene wants to take Ethan in quietly, but Ethan is already thinking of an escape plan with the explosive gum. Ethan throws the explosive at the fish tank and water gushes out, letting Ethan run away. He sneaks back to the safe house to pack what he needs and starts researching what Eugene said about the mole. Ethan narrows down the search after going through the Bible and messages Max to meet up. Jim walks through the door heavily injured, asking for Ethan's help, but he is just hallucinating from exhaustion because it was Claire who woke him up. Ethan freaks out and pulls a gun on Claire because he watched her die in the car explosion, but she escaped the car explosion in time. He starts patting her down because he thinks someone sent her. Claire came back because if they aborted the mission they were supposed to come back at 4 a.m. Ethan tells her the IMF thinks Ethan is the mole and he plans to play into it to find out who's the real mole.
I can't find him, but if he knows I have a knock list, he'll find me.
Claire wants to speak with Eugene to clear up the situation, but Ethan doesn't think it's a good idea. They get a message from Max on how and where they will be meeting up. Ethan goes to the meetup location to meet Max, but he must wear a blindfold. Max allows Ethan to speak with her without the blindfold and she finds out Ethan isn't job when Ethan demands $150,000.
I want $150,000 today.
Ethan tells Max the disc was fake because it was bait to find the mole in the IMF. Ethan will get Max the knock list if she gives up job and warns them the disc is a tracker. Max doesn't trust Ethan and starts it up, letting Eugene's team track them. Luckily they got out in time and Barnes wants to lock down Prague to arrest them, but Eugene knows Ethan can escape because they are trained to be ghosts. Eugene doesn't want to chase him and will let Ethan come to them. Max tells Ethan she paid Job $6 million for the disc and offers Ethan $6 million for the complete list. Ethan counters with a $10 million payout and Job has to be there for the exchange and Max agrees to the deal. He goes back to the safe house to tell Claire what happened and he is surprised Claire is willing to help Ethan find the mole. Ethan looks for help from the disavowed list and he meets up with Franz and Luther to tell them about the mission. Franz thinks Ethan is crazy because they are breaking into the CIA. Luther doesn't know if they can because he physically needs to be there to hack the system, but if they do, he wants to keep the equipment. Ethan gives a detailed report on how the security system works and is determined to break in.
And you really think we can do this?
We're going to do it.
In Langley, firefighters rush into the building and Luther helps them get through. Claire sneaks into a room to change while they go into the service room. She laces William's drink and places a tracker on him. Franz wants to eliminate the guard, but Ethan doesn't want to have any death count and they start going through the vents. Ethan uses a machine to block the lasers and unscrews the vent. Franz slowly lets Ethan down but stops when William comes in. William vomits and rushes to the washroom to continue vomiting. Ethan uses the time to download the knock list. Franz is struggling to keep Ethan and when a rat shows up, he almost drops Ethan onto the reactive floor. Ethan starts sweating and catches the falling droplet. Franz starts pulling Ethan up when William is coming back, but the rope is making noise because it went off the prop during the drop. Ethan can retrieve the disc and remove everything before William arrives, but Franz drops his knife when retrieving the disc. William finds out someone messed with the mainframe and informs Eugene. Eugene is pissed and wants to ship William to Alaska for the massive F-up.
I want to manning a radar tower in Alaska by the end of the day.
Ethan tossed a gas grenade to create chaos and that let them blend into escape. In London, Ethan messages Max and Franz is annoyed with Ethan ignoring him. Franz wants to meet with the buyer, but Ethan won't let him and Franz threatens Ethan with the disc. Ethan shows Franz a magic trick because he swapped the disc before Franz snatched it on the mission. Franz tosses the disc after threatening Ethan if he messes with him on the money. Ethan picks up the Bible and realizes Jim is the mole because he stayed at the Drake Hotel on his last mission. Claire apologizes to Ethan for bringing Franz in and tries seducing Ethan before going to sleep. Ethan takes the disc from the trash because he bamboozled Franz and gives the disc to Luther for safekeeping because if Luther knew what the mission was, he wouldn't have done it. Claire calls Ethan because they are arresting his family members on the news. Ethan goes out to call Eugene to threaten him and cuts the call before they can pinpoint his exact location, but at least they know he's in London. Jim surprises Ethan and tells Ethan how he tracked him down after just missing him at the safe house. He tells Ethan that Eugene is the mole, but Ethan doesn't believe him.
Kittredge, Ethan.
Ethan tries to think of how Jim pulled off the stunt and knows Franz helped eliminate some of them, but Jim knows what he did. He knows Eugene will come because Ethan has the knock list and he plans to meet with Max tomorrow on the TGV en route to Paris. Claire and Luther will be with him on the train while Franz is waiting in Paris with a helicopter for extraction. Ethan messages Max on the meetup location and goes back to the safe house to get intimate with Claire. Eugene arrives in London the next day and is given train tickets to the meetup location with a spy watch. On the train, Jim is setting up his gun and waiting for Max to call him. Eugene and Frank are walking around to look for potential suspects. Ethan calls Max to tell her where the disc is and Andreas opens the knock list. Once she sees the list, she tells Ethan where the money is located, and when he gets the money, Job will find him. Claire tells Ethan Eugene is lurking by and Ethan wants to meet Claire at the baggage car.
The money's in the baggage car. I'll meet you there.
Max has trouble connecting to the modem to transfer the data because Luther is jamming their signal. Luther tries to get away when he sees Eugene closing in, but the train steward gives Luther his phone jammer back before he can hide in the washroom, and that stops the jammer from jamming their modem. Max tells Job that Ethan is in the baggage car and he heads that way. Eugene sees someone trying to break into the washroom, but the guy stops and walks to another car to avoid Eugene. Claire tells Jim that it isn't a good idea to eliminate Ethan because Eugene is there and they should just escape with the money. Ethan reveals himself, but Jim barges in to ask him when he knew Jim was a traitor. Ethan figured it out due to the Bible and Claire takes the money from him. Ethan had one more card to play, which was revealing Jim to Eugene. Jim shoots Claire when she pleads to Jim and knocks down Ethan like he's nothing. Ethan goes after Jim when he finds out Claire is dead. The wind pressure is making it hard for Ethan to go after Jim without equipment, and Franz shows up to extract Jim. Franz tries to hurry it up because he sees the tunnel incoming. Ethan takes the opportunity to hook the helicopter to the train and almost gets kicked off while Franz is forced to fly into the tunnel. Jim gets onto the helicopter and Franz tries to terminate Ethan with the blades. Luckily, the helicopter had to back off because it didn't have enough room, which let Ethan get on the helicopter. Ethan took out the explosive gum and stuck it on the helicopter. Due to plot armor, Ethan lands back on the train and nearly survives the helicopter's blades from chopping his head off. Eugene chats with Max after Luther gives them the disc. Ethan and Luther celebrate the win because Luther is off the disavowed list for assisting Ethan on the mission, and Ethan is glad Eugene released his family from BS charges like Trump's BS charges.
It's you, Luther. Being off the disavowed list.
Luther wonders why Ethan won't go back, but Ethan doesn't have a reason to go back and leaves to catch his flight. On the flight, a stewardess recommends Ethan a movie and Ethan knows the IMF is giving him a mission. In Sydney, Australia at Biocide Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Nekhorvich injects himself with Chimera and begs Dimitri to come to Sydney to accompany him to Atlanta because he needs to arrive at his destination within 20 hours. He meets Ethan on the plane and Ethan finds out they successfully created a cure for Chimera, but Gradsky passed before Bellerophon was created. Too bad Bellerophon can't cure Chimera if 20 hours have passed. The plane suddenly experiences a drop in cabin pressure and Ethan goes to see if everything is okay. Everyone puts on their oxygen masks and passes out. Hugh lowers the altitude to 10,000 and puts the plane on autopilot. Dr. Nekhorvich is glad he didn't put it on, but Ethan eliminates Dr. Nekhorvich when he finds out Ethan isn't Dimitri.
You keep calling me Dimitri.
You are not Dmitri.
Ethan takes the briefcase and reveals himself as Sean Ambrose. They wear their gear and jump out of the plane after getting rid of the evidence. The co-pilot tries to save the plane when he wakes up, but it is too late and crashes into the mountains. We see Ethan climbing the Grand Canyon without safeties like pro rock climber Alex Honnold. He takes a risky jump and almost falls off, but plot armor saves him. Ethan reaches the top and the IMF shoots a rocket at Ethan to give him his next mission. They want Ethan to recover Chimera and can choose 2 teammates, but his third has to be Nia Hall because she is a professional thief like Catwoman.
Involves recovery of a stolen item, designated Chimera.
Ethan must recruit Nia within 48 hours and meet Swanbeck at Seville to receive the assignment. If anything goes wrong on the mission, the US government will deny affiliation and the glasses self-destruct. In Seville, Spain, Ethan looks for Nia and when he finds her, she disappears. Nia sneaks upstairs and uses her gadgets to steal a necklace. Ethan is surprised and they get into an intimate position because someone walks in. Nia gets on top once the man leaves to pick the lock to steal the necklace while Ethan enjoys the view. Ethan warns Nia, but she triggers the alarms when putting the box back and the security team surrounds them. They get away with the robbery because the boss hired Ethan as the security consultant and Ethan forces Nia to return the stolen necklace. Nia declines Ethan's recruitment because he caused her to lose $500,000 necklace. Ethan triggered the alarm because he wanted to see how good she was and she drove away annoyed for getting bamboozled. Ethan catches up to her and offers to erase her criminal history if she helps him. Nia will help if Ethan can catch her and she starts playing bumper cars. Ethan is enjoying the chase, but he has to save her because she isn't keeping her eyes on the road. They spin out and Nia almost falls down the mountain, but Ethan saves her in time. They start making out when Ethan puts the moves on her and they end up in a room. Ethan wakes up mesmerized by her beauty and starts round 2. Later on, Ethan meets with Swanbeck and he shows Ethan the video of Dr. Nekhorvich creating a cure, but in the process creating a virus to the cure. He wants Ethan to escort him to Atlanta within 20 hours because he doesn't trust anyone but him. Ethan finds out Dr. Nekhorvich died in a plane crash, but Ethan doesn't know how Dr. Nekhorvich went without him. Swanbeck told Ethan they replaced him with Sean because they have similar builds. The head captain missed the flight but was found dead in a cargo. Swanbeck wants Ethan to use Nia to find out Sean's plan and where he's hiding because they were lovers before and Sean wants to woo her back. Ethan is contemplating using Nia to get to Sean, but Swanbeck is a cunning man and gets Ethan to do it.
This is not mission difficult, Mr. Hunt. It's mission impossible. Difficult should be a walk in the park for you.
Ethan returns to show Nia what Sean has done and would like her to be a part of the operation. Nia feels hurt because Ethan is using her after everything, but she finds out Ethan doesn't want to use her to get to Sean. She feels his affection and offers to help, but Ethan will need to arrange something where she would need Sean's help to get out, not to be suspicious. Ethan places a tracker on her and only his computer can track her. He knows Sean will know Naya has been arrested when he checks the news bulletins about the crash and will get her out. Ethan chooses Luther and Billy as his team and they meet up with Ethan. Luther tracks down Naya but is having issues with the visuals because of Ethan's trash computer and the satellite has a slow response time. Naya is escorted to Sean by his men and make out when they see each other. Wallace scans her to make sure she isn't wearing a wire and it comes back clean. Sean gives her a dress to change into but stops her to enjoy bedroom fun after checking her out. Ethan thinks Dr. Nekhorovich created a monster in Chimera and the antivirus Bellerophon to kill it. The next day, Sean is excited the buyer has his $37 million ready for him. Hugh thinks Naya is here for a reason because it's too much of a coincidence that she suddenly needs Sean's help. Sean gets annoyed with that question because he is willing to take the risk and gives Hugh a warning.
I may or may not know why she thinks she's here, but I'm willing to take the risk.
They go to the house tracks and Naya somehow picks the winning horse. Sean goes to get drinks and Billy gives Naya a booklet with an earpiece so she tells Ethan what she learned. Ethan thinks the money in the newspaper is for potential buyers. Billy sees Sean meeting with John, the CEO of Biosite Pharmaceuticals, and is mad when Sean shows him a picture. John storms off and Sean puts the SD card away before returning to Naya. Ethan tells her where the SD card is and Naya swiftly steals it. Sean calls her back but luckily he doesn't know he got robbed. Hugh follows behind Naya but Billy gets in his way and Hugh gives Billy a stern warning because Billy injured his wounded finger.
Whatever you're about in future, watch your step. Never know who you might run into.
Luther goes to table 12 to give Ethan a transfer camera and runs back to the van to start the transfer. They watch Dr. Sergei Gradsky being infected with Chimera and what the virus can do. Ethan wants Naya to bail because it has become too dangerous and Ethan will get her out if she can't do it. Hugh spots Naya and shows up behind her after Ethan vanishes. Sean notices Naya slipping the SD card back in and when they return to the hideout, he gets Hugh to dispose of the SD card. When John is done with work, he goes home but the driver poisons John with Chimera on the way. John is placed in quarantine and Dr. Nekhorovich tells John he's infected with Chimera. He baits John to tell him why Chimera was created and finds out he's a greedy pig who's willing to sacrifice people's lives for profit.
Creating a disease so terrible in Chimera, the cure would be priceless. I'm in business to make money.
Turns out Dr. Nekhorovich was Ethan and he wants to destroy Chimera so Sean won't have a virus to cure with Bellerophon. Billy wakes John up to make him think what he went through was a dream. Naya sneaks out when she notices Sean missing. She is glad she runs into Ethan, but it is Sean in disguise. He tells Naya not to alarm Sean and to do whatever he says. Sean is furious that she doesn't love him and thanks Hugh for a job well done. Ethan comes up with a game plan to sneak into Biosite as stealthily as possible to avoid casualties. Sean predicts Ethan's plan from looking at his track record and believes he will destroy Chimera but Sean will stop him. Ethan flies to the top of Biosite to rappel down and luckily Luther gets the fans to open up when Ethan rappels down. Ethan unhooks himself so Billy can retract the cable before it alarms the security system on the fan. He gears up when he locates the virus and destroys the virus in the incubation room. Sean arrives at Biosite, and Luther notices Naya in the building. He assumes Sean brought her there, but he can't get through to Ethan until the generators go off. Someone places a bomb on the van where Luther is quarterbacking and Luther notices it but he gets stuck when the bomb goes off. Ethan goes to destroy the last sample but Sean arrives to stop Ethan from destroying the last vial. They engage in a gunfight but plot armor saves Ethan from the trained gunman. Ethan starts dual-wielding CS:GO's dual Beretta like a beast and tries to get the vial but gets trapped when he fails. Sean brings out Naya to force her to get the vial because he knows Ethan will stay put. Naya injects herself with Chimera after picking it up and Sean is unable to shoot her because she will cause him to lose $37 million. Ethan blows up the place and brings Naya with him to get away. The guards storm the room after the explosion and they get into a gunfight with Sean's men. Ethan is annoyed Naya injected herself but now he knows she loves him.
I wasn't thinking! Just trying to stop you from getting hurt, that's all!
Naya wants Ethan to end her because she thinks they can't make it out together. Ethan breaches the wall to escape and promises to cure her before he leaves because he isn't willing to sacrifice her. Luther somehow survived the explosion and needs to fix the computer before they can track Naya's location but Naya will end herself to not infect others with the virus. Sean drops off Naya and meets with John to make their trade. Ethan climbs up to the meetup location and swiftly takes out the guards one by one. He sneaks in to surprise attack a guard and puts him to sleep. Sean takes out Chimera and Bellerophon, and a doctor does his due diligence. John will give them the money, but Sean wants to use the $30 million to buy Biosite stock options because he plans to spread the virus and make billions off the options.
When your stock goes north of 200, those options will be worth billions.
Ethan throws an explosive at the door and shoots it when someone opens the door. He shows himself, and Sean orders his men to take down Ethan. Sean is in a hurry to get his money and gets John to start the transfer. Hugh leads a group of men to look for Ethan, but a pigeon gives Ethan's position away after everyone splits up. Ethan kicks Hugh, but he pulls a gun and Ethan unpins a grenade when Hugh tells him to raise his hand. The explosion knocks them both out, but Sean can apprehend Ethan. Hugh brings Ethan to Sean so he can torture Ethan before he terminates him. Sean notices Ethan's pinky is bandaged up and screams in agony when he finds out he terminated Hugh. Ethan runs out of there with the virus and cure, but the guards stop Ethan from escaping on the helicopter. He easily shoots the guards who are in his way and gets Luther to clear the bridge for him. Luther switches to the grenade launcher to take them out for shooting at him so Ethan can get past the bridge. Ethan shoots the gunman and blows up a car with his amazing aim. Luther fixes the computer to locate Naya, and Ethan wants Billy to pick her up because they are running out of time to save her. Ethan sees a truck coming and blinds his pursuers to let the truck take them out. Sean can catch up to shoot at Ethan, but he can hide behind the motorcycle and they enjoy a game of cat and mouse. They start hand-to-hand combat after crashing their motorcycles. Sean seems to be getting the upper hand after hitting Ethan with a rock and pulls a knife because he can't fight like a man. Ethan can take the knife away from Sean with his strength, but Sean can bait Ethan to not use it and they continue fighting.
Go ahead, use a hunt. It's not a bad way to go.
Naya is on the edge ready to jump, but they arrive in time to pick her up and they fly over to Ethan. A coward Sean is getting his ass whooped and goes for the gun, but Ethan can disarm him to continue with the beatdown. Sean drops onto a rock after Ethan's kick and Ethan sees his lifeless body. Ethan goes to Naya when they arrive, but Sean is just pretending to be dead to pull a gun on them. Ethan tosses the cure to Luther to kick up the gun to shoot Sean multiple times to ensure his death. Luther injects Naya with the cure and Ethan is glad she's okay. Ethan reports back to Swanbeck on completing his mission. Swanbeck is disappointed Ethan couldn't bring back a sample and expunges all of Naya's criminal records. Ethan goes to meet up with Naya later on to enjoy his vacation. Ethan is with a new girl named Julia, and I guess Naya isn't good enough because Ethan is engaged to Julia. Melissa gives a speech on their engagement and hopes to be an auntie soon.
I am making Julia an aunt, so I expect the same treatment very, very soon.
During the party, Ethan gets a call from the IMF for a mission in Mexico and he hangs up. Ethan tossed out the ice to make an excuse to leave the party. He goes to a market to meet with IMF agent John because Agent Lindsay Ferris went MIA 11 hours ago. John was hoping to send Ethan on a search and rescue mission, but Ethan declines and John leaves a gift if he changes his mind. Ethan reviews the mission and the IMF wants to rescue her because she's the key to getting closer to Owen Davian despite the danger. Ethan wakes up from a nightmare because he trained Lindsay and decides to take on the mission. He meets up with the team and they head to Berlin, Germany. Ethan sets up the sentries and returns to Luther to begin the rescue mission. Luther spots 14 men in the building and spots Lindsay's location with 2 men standing guard. Ethan sneaks around the building to get to Lindsay, and on the way he sticks explosives around the building. Jen Lay prepares to mess with the electronics on Ethan's order and Declan Gormley starts the helicopter. Ethan triggers the explosives after he spots Lindsay, and that signals everyone to attack. The sentries are wiping out the guards and Ethan takes the opportunity to rescue Lindsay through the chaos. He gives her a shot of adrenaline so she can move. Jen takes the computers and jumps out of the room when she sees a guard dropping a grenade. She is unharmed and breaks out of the building. Lindsay wants Ethan to turn off his transmitter so she can tell him something, but the guards interrupt them.
I have to talk to you. Turn off your transmitter. Do it, Ethan!
Ethan gives Lindsay a pistol so she can help out and they push up to eliminate the guards. Their teamwork is impeccable and Ethan takes out the last one. Ethan throws an explosive before they rappel down and blows up the building when they get down. Luther drives to the rendezvous and they get onto the helicopter, but Lindsay is having a massive headache because someone implanted an explosive in her head. An attack chopper is chasing after them and luckily Declan dodges the incoming missile. Ethan wants to zap the device with a defibrillator, but they fire another missile at them. Luther shoots a flare to get the missile off of them and Jen is thrown out, but Ethan can catch her in time to bring her back. Declan luckily flies past the fans and the pursuers gets wrecked. They were too late because the implant killed her before the defibrillator was ready. Ethan returns home and Julia embraces Ethan because of his sad expression. Theodore Brassel lays into Ethan in the board meeting because he trained Lindsay and recommended her for active duty. They didn't get any useful information on the rescue mission and John argues they recovered 2 damaged laptops, but it's unlikely they can recover any info from it. Theodore doesn't think the rescue mission was worth the risk because Owen remains invisible for so long even though he's a weapons dealer.
We can't find him. He knows it. And he remains invisible. He's a goddamn invisible man.
Lindsay's funeral is held and Ethan remembers training her to become active duty. Ethan gets a call from Norfolk Mail Service because Lindsay requested they call Ethan when her mail arrives for Ethan. He checks the mail for clues and finds a microdot, but Luther can't find anything from the microdot. Ethan thinks it might be magnetic, but before they can check, Benji calls Ethan and they go to Benji to see what he found. Benji managed to recover portions of the email files. They find out Owen will be at a function at Vatican City for the Rabbit's Foot, but they have no clue what Rabbit's Foot is. Benji assumes it could be a world-ending event because it has to deal with a huge sum of money, but he has no clue whatsoever.
But now I don't have any idea what it is, I was just speculating.
Ethan doesn't want Benji to let anyone know because he wants John to have deniability for the operation. Ethan tells Luther that being with Julia feels like life before the IMF, and he goes to the hospital to tell Julia he has to go on a 2-day business trip. Julia believes Ethan is hiding something from her, but Ethan can get Julia to trust him unconditionally. They go back inside so they can get married, and once that's done, Ethan claps her cheeks. Ethan goes back to headquarters to inform the team that they will be going to Vatican City to kidnap Owen. Luther thinks it's a dumb idea because Vatican City is highly monitored. Ethan thinks kidnapping Owen is the easy part and the hard part is not letting the buyers know Owen has been kidnapped. At Vatican City, they act like their van breaks down to cause a commotion so Ethan can sneak into the chamber, and once Ethan is up there, Declan goes to his next post. Ethan jams one of the security cameras to run up the wall and unjams it after he puts up a picture to not alarm the security. He rappels down and changes into a pastor disguise to get into the server room to loop a video. Declan changes into a security to let Jen into the gathering. Luther swims into the chambers to meet up with Ethan and Declan to quarterback and tells Ethan being married isn't good for their work, but Ethan thinks it will because he's not in the field anymore.
Thanks for the advice, but it's different for me than it is for you. I'm not in the field anymore.
Jen takes a bunch of pictures of Owen so Luther can create a face mold of Owen. Owen gets a call and goes to pick up a briefcase, but Jen has no clue who dropped it off. Jen bumps into Owen to spill her wine on him and he goes to the washroom alone to clean himself off. Ethan sneaks into the washroom and forces Owen to read the note so they can calibrate Ethan's voice. The bodyguard comes to check on Owen and Declan comes out to help kidnap Owen. Luckily the bodyguard didn't see Owen and Ethan can get him out. Jen offers to clean Ethan's shirt and he takes the opportunity to go alone with her. They move the Lamborghini into position to escape and blow up the Lamborghini to cause a scene. They get on a speedboat and inform John of their successful kidnap.
Ethan Hunt and his team just grabbed Owen Davian in Rome.
And good work.
Ethan wants to know who his buyers are when Owen wakes up on their way back, but Owen keeps on threatening Ethan, which hits a sore spot. Ethan uses extreme methods to get Owen to tell them about the Rabbit's Foot and plans to toss him out like Reacher. Luckily Luther got Ethan to stop and Owen threatens Ethan once he finds out his name.
Because you're gonna be this close to dead, and you're not gonna be able to do shit, and then I'm gonna kill you right in front of her.
On the way to the IMF, Luther shows Ethan the video she left behind on the microdot, and she believes Theodore is working with Owen because she intercepted a transmission coming from Theodore's office. Suddenly they are attacked by an incoming drone strike and almost fall off the bridge. A helicopter shows up out of nowhere and starts shooting at them. Ethan tried to get in the escort van, but they shot the driver down. He runs back to the car to get his assault rifle and shoots down the drone. The men free Owen from the escort van and Owen can get away because Ethan runs out of ammo. Ethan calls Julia's druggy brother Jesse Pinkman because he can't reach Julia and finds out he told some random guy where she is.
It's all good, man. I told him I didn't know where you were, and Julia might. She's just trying the hospital.
Ethan hijacks a car to go to the hospital because he knows Owen sent someone after her. A man sedates Julia and takes her away before Ethan arrives at the hospital. Owen calls Ethan to get the Rabbit's Foot in the next 48 hours, otherwise he's going to kill Julia. The IMF surrounds Ethan because he left the scene right after the attack. Ethan makes a run for it, but he doesn't get far after getting tranquilized. They bring Ethan back to the IMF because Theodore found out Lindsay told Ethan something and not to the agency. Theodore won't stand for a rogue agent working for him and plans to take his time with Ethan. Once Theodore leaves, John starts talking with Ethan in code to tell him where the Rabbit's Foot is located and gives him a knife to free himself. Agents move Ethan to a cell, but Ethan breaks free and knocks out the agents to escape. Ethan uses the radio with Theodore's voice to lock down the building while he escapes.
Ordering a Code 6 lockdown. I repeat,
it's Hunt.
We're under Code 6.
It's Hunt.
Ethan puts on his disguise to fly to Shanghai and goes to the building John told him about. The team shows up later to support Ethan after hearing about Julia. According to the info in the briefcase, the rabbit's foot should be located in a laboratory of the Hangshan Lu building, but it's going to be a pain in the ass to steal the rabbit's foot because of the security. Ethan has an idea to swing from one building to the other, but others think it's a stupid idea because escaping is going to be risky. Ethan disregards the risk because he wants the chance to save Julia.
And we have 2 hours before they kill my wife. Are you in or not?
Luther tells Ethan about the escape plan while Ethan prepares to jump and thanks Luther for coming. Jen and Declan shoot baseballs at the guards to cause a distraction. That lets Ethan swing over without the guards knowing until he slides down and shoots them down. Luckily, Ethan catches the pipes and sneaks into the building to retrieve the rabbit's foot. The team is nervous because Ethan has been inside for too long and suddenly he jumps out of the window because he couldn't make it to the roof. Ethan doesn't have control over his parachute but luckily lands relatively safely. The container falls out of Ethan's grasp and somehow survives oncoming cars. Ethan gets to it in time and almost gets hit by a car, but luckily Declan was there to pick him up to get away from the guards. The guards start shooting at them while Ethan calls Owen, but it can't get through because the area has terrible signal. Jen shoots back, but she is taken out of commission after getting shot. Ethan lets Declan call once he gets a signal so Ethan can focus on getting rid of the pursuers. They call Owen in time to let him know he retrieved the rabbit's foot, and Owen tells Ethan where to meet up.
The rabbit's foot. I have it.
You only have 5 seconds left. Did you realize that?
Ethan lets John know they retrieved it and gives John a way to locate the rabbit's foot. They drop off Ethan to say their goodbyes and Ethan goes to the meetup location alone. John tells Theodore he sent a team to Shanghai to capture Hatem Salim Bahar, and Theodore wants John to drop off the intel to his office. A limo shows up to pick up Ethan and the driver demands Ethan to drink the liquid before they move. When Ethan wakes up, a doctor injects an explosive into Ethan's head and Owen starts asking Ethan where the rabbit's foot is. Owen shoots Julia because Ethan won't give up the rabbit's foot. John shows up after Owen leaves to reveal the person Owen shot wasn't Julia. He wants to know if Lindsay told anyone about John working with Owen because he wants to wipe out the buyer's country so the US can rebuild it. Ethan won't tell unless he knows Julia is alive. John makes the call and Ethan knocks out John after Julia answers the question.
When we met, there was a lake near the mountain. What is the lake called?
Wanaka. What was the name of that lake?
Lake Wanaka.
Ethan frees himself and calls Benji to find out where the rabbit's foot is located so he can retrieve it. Benji is against helping but helps out after finding out Ethan was set up. Ethan follows Benji's direction and starts running like a madman. When the team arrives home, a group of agents surrounds them. Ethan arrives at the tagged location and some oldies point to where he needs to go. He knocks over some things which alarm the guards, but he easily takes them out. Ethan tries to free Julia, but Owen activates the explosive in his head which causes a massive headache. Owen starts beating Ethan and drags Ethan to Julia so he can kill Julia in front of him. In a fit of rage, Ethan pushes through the pain and attacks Owen. Ethan places Owen on top so a truck crashes into Owen and he goes back inside to free Julia. He looks for a defibrillator but can't find one, so he plans to electrocute himself to fry the explosive with Julia's help. Julia is forced to protect Ethan while he is in an unconscious state and unloads her remaining ammo on John when she hears him coming. She starts performing CPR until Ethan wakes up and he tells Julia about the IMF.
I work for an agency. It's called IMF, Impossible Mission Force.
Theodore thanks Ethan and offers Ethan a job opportunity. Ethan wants to think about it because he wants to go on his honeymoon. Benji hacks the prison security and unlocks a cell to get a prisoner out. The guard sees him outside and tries to get the prisoner to go back to his cell, but Benji lets more out. The prisoners attack the guard but can't get back up because Benji is controlling the security system and locking them inside. Jane is going through the sewers to get into position to break Ethan out. Benji lets more prisoners out of their cells, which causes a massive brawl and frees Ethan from his cell. Ethan easily swings down to the exit, but he doesn't leave and goes the other way. Benji doesn't want to listen to Ethan's orders because it wasn't part of the plan, but he relents and opens the doors for him.
Okay, fine. There.
Ethan goes through the prisoners to get Bogdan to escape, and he has to fight whoever is in their way. Ethan orders Benji to open up all the cells because reinforcements are on the way. They get to position and Bogdan thinks they hit a dead end, but Jane is there to dissolve the floor. They rappel down to the sewer and they light the fuse to escape. Benji doesn't know why Bogdan came along, but Ethan wants to give him his freedom for the intel because he would be dead if anyone knew. Ethan shoots Bogdan with a tranquilizer and transfers him onto a different van. Ethan knows something big has gone wrong because they broke Ethan out. Jane tells him about their failed mission to get the Russian nuclear launch codes and how they lost it. The mission initially succeeded in retrieving the codes, but Trevor ran into opposition who chased after him. When Trevor got away from them by jumping off the building, he ran into an assassin named Sabine who shot him to take the bag. Jane arrived just in time to watch him die. Ethan knows she's a contract killer who worked for Cobalt, and Cobalt is now enemy number one because he's determined to detonate a nuclear weapon however he can.
He's determined to detonate a nuclear weapon however he can. You can bet Cobalt's gone from a person of interest to enemy number one.
They arrive at a phone booth and Ethan's mission is to break into the Kremlin to find Cobalt's identity. While Ethan gets briefed on the mission, Jane finds out Ethan got divorced, but rumor has it of an unsanctioned hit. At the Kremlin, Jane releases a balloon to drop a transmitter device to get Ethan's fake ID through. Ethan impersonates General Anatoly Fedorov to get through, but Major Igorov insists on checking Ethan's ID. Nothing shows up after scanning because the transmitter isn't done, and Ethan gets Igorov to try it again when it's done transmitting. Igorov lets them through when his ID shows up and Benji threatens him. They sneak into the documents floor and set up a device to distort someone's depth. Whenever the guard moves or looks around, they move up until they reach the document room. Benji almost gets caught when he puts his face in front of the camera, but Ethan can push him away in time and Benji sets the camera. Ethan breaks into the documents room to look for Cobalt's identity, but someone got it before them. A man named Kurt connects to their frequency and prepares to blow the place up.
Awaiting your go sign. Standing by to detonate.
They abort the mission and Ethan sees Kurt when he tries to escape. The device starts failing when more guards show up and they try to get the intruder because they also heard what Kurt said about detonating the explosives. Ethan can slip by the other soldiers and change his disguise once he gets the soldiers to lock the place down. He tries to get to Kurt when he sees him fleeing, but the Kremlin blows up and Ethan is knocked out from the explosion. Ethan wakes up handcuffed in the hospital because they assume he is the perpetrator because investigator Anatoly found Ethan's disguise. A nurse pushes Ethan away because he is still a patient, and that lets Ethan take a paperclip to free himself later. Anatoly is distracted by his subordinates and he notices Ethan missing from his stretcher. He checks the windows to find Ethan preparing to jump, but Ethan chickens out and goes back while Anatoly patiently waits.
Not a good idea.
A van came by and Ethan had an idea to zip line down onto the van to flee. Anatoly is pissed and reports where Ethan is going. Ethan steals clothes to hide himself and a phone to call for evacuation. Leonid sees the attack on the news and wants to skip town right away. Kurt shows up and takes Leonid's family hostage to force Leonid to work for him. IMF Secretary Tom picks up Ethan and Ethan believes Cobalt is Kurt after William sees a drawing of Kurt. Ethan wants Tom to inform the Kremlin that Kurt has a nuclear launch device and one of Kurt's operatives has the codes to activate it. Ethan remembers seeing Kurt leaving the executive army in his bag, and the explosion is to cover his tracks before the Russians can find out. The Russians won't listen because they believe the US just bombed them. The president disavowed the entire IMF because the IMF would be taking the fall for it. Tom wants Ethan to fake an escape and gives him his mission.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
Tom and the driver are eliminated when the Russian suddenly attacks them. The car swerves off the bridge and they are submerged into the water. They try to swim away but bullets are flying at them. They go back to the car for cover and Ethan puts a flare on Tom to push him into the open. The Russians see Tom and they all shoot at him. Ethan and William take this opportunity to swim away. Anatoly gets them to stop shooting because they got baited with a dead body. Ivo shows Anatoly who recently escaped prison and Anatoly wants to know who Bogdan is. William wonders why the flare would work and Ethan believes they weren't thinking and shooting whatever was moving.
I didn't assume they were thinking. I assumed they were shooting at anything that moved. I just gave them a target for pieces.
They look for the cart to get out of there and struggle a bit to get into the cart because the train is moving and it requires a retina scan to unlock the cart. Benji and Jane aim at them because they assume Ethan died from the explosion. Ethan checks what is inside the USB and they watch Leonard giving a speech about nuclear war. He briefs the team on what they know and how Kurt is sending Winston to buy the launch codes from Sabine in Dubai. Ethan lets them choose to stay or leave because whatever they do now is unsanctioned. No one speaks up and they come up with a plan. They start packing essentials and go to Dubai to prevent Winston from meeting Sabine by sending them to different rooms. Jane steals a uniform while the boys go to the room to set up. Benji is having problems breaking into the server room because the firewall is OP, so Ethan will need to climb up to the server room. Benji tells Ethan how the gloves work so he can become Spider-Man and he gives Ethan gadgets to break into the server room. Ethan starts climbing the Burj Khalifa but a sandstorm is heading his way. One of the gloves malfunction and Ethan almost falls off. Ethan gets rid of the glove and continues climbing to the server room without it. When Ethan is cutting the glass, he falls from the sudden spark and catches himself. He climbs back up to break into the server room to help Benji hack into the server. Once Benji gains control of the server, they move to the next stage by changing the room numbers in a rush because Sabine is ahead of schedule. Ethan wants to use the elevator but they don't have control of it, so Ethan uses the fire hose to rappel back down to the room. The line isn't long enough, so Ethan tries a risky maneuver to jump back in. Ethan miscalculated the jump and falls, but William can catch him in time to drag him back inside. Benji returns like he did something big and has no clue what just happened. Benji gives Ethan a tracker to track the paper, but he needs to stay close because the tracking range is terrible. Jane inserts a contact lens in William's eyes and checks if it scrambles the numbers when printing a copy. Ethan notices someone came along with Wiestrom, and William identifies the guy as Leonid, who redesigned Russia's nuclear security after the Cold War. Leonid was brought to authenticate the codes, and Ethan gets Benji to delay them. Ethan wants to reprogram the briefcase to print an exact copy to not blow the operation. William takes the briefcase because he doesn't want to give Wiestrom the launch codes. Ethan gives a compelling argument that if they lose Kurt today, he's going to find another way, but next time no one can stop him.
We lose Hendricks today, he shows up somewhere else tomorrow. He finds another way with no IMF to stop him.
William gives in and gives back the briefcase so Benji can recode it. The mask machine breaks down midway and Ethan plans to do the operation without a mask, even though it is risky. Jane acts as Sabine while Ethan and William act as Wiestrom and Leonid. After they get patted down, Ethan asks for the codes, but Sabine wants the diamonds first. Sabine wants to kill William to show strength, but Ethan threatens to kill her when she leaves if they both don't walk out of there alive. Benji goes into Jane's room in disguise to take the diamonds while providing refreshments and leaves. Jane gives Wiestrom a locked briefcase and takes her time getting the code to open the briefcase. Sabine gives Ethan the codes and William takes pictures of them to get the briefcase to print it out, but Sabine notices William double blinking. Jane gives Wiestrom the code to unlock the briefcase once she knows the copies are inside. Leonid authenticates the codes and Wiestrom snatches the papers to leave. Leonid follows behind to ask about his family, and Wiestrom eliminates Leonid and his family. Ethan calls Benji in to give her the diamonds to complete their transaction. Sabine sees William's contact lens and orders her men to kill them while she escapes. Ethan tells Jane to detain Sabine because she's still an asset while they deal with her henchmen. Ethan gets Benji to mess with the elevator to delay Wiestrom from leaving while he chases after him. Jane brings Sabine back to their room and gets Benji to watch her because she'll kill Sabine if she babysits her.
Watch her.
Why me?
Because if I do, I'll kill her.
Benji is distracted by William, who is checking Leonid, and Sabine knocks Benji out. Jane tackles her and they start fighting. William hears gunshots and rushes back to see Jane kick Sabine out the window. Ethan catches up to Wiestrom, but Anatoly shows up to detain Ethan, and Ethan just bodies them to prevent Wiestrom from fleeing. The sandstorm rolls by making it harder for Ethan to follow Wiestrom, and Ethan loses Wiestrom until Ethan pulls out the tracker to see Wiestrom speeding towards him. Wiestrom hits Ethan with a car, but Ethan grabs a hold of the car and Wiestrom tries to fling Ethan off the car. Ethan has to bail to avoid smashing into a truck and rips off a part of Wiestrom's mask. Ethan steals someone's car to follow the tracker and starts playing bumper cars. He times the car to collide with Wiestrom and jumps out before the collision, but Wiestrom is missing when he looks for him. Wiestrom gets onto a truck to escape, and it turns out Wiestrom was Kurt all along. The team goes to a safe house and Ethan calls a contact to get to Kurt. William starts roasting everyone's mistakes and they all start roasting each other. Ethan is suspicious of William's identity because he's an analyst, but his skills prove otherwise.
How does an agent with skills like that end up an analyst?
William doesn't want to tell the team why he's hiding as an analyst, and Ethan leaves them to meet with his contact to find Kurt's whereabouts, but he has to wear a blindfold. Once Ethan leaves, William tells them that he failed a protection mission for a couple in Croatia. William felt like they could handle the Serbian hit squad that was after the couple when they caught wind of it. His gut feeling told him to warn the couple, but he listened to orders and the wife died because he didn't warn them. That was William's last day in the field because he couldn't face another life or death situation, but he coincidentally bumped into the husband, who is Ethan. William feels guilty and doesn't know if he should tell Ethan that he might be the cause of Julia's death. Bogdan introduced Ethan to Victor, the weapons dealer. Ethan gets Victor's attention because he wants to prevent nuclear war. He wants to get a tactical satellite because the case and codes are useless without the satellite. Victor tells Ethan that a telecom in Mumbai bought a satellite from the Russians to become friends with Ethan. To shut down the satellite, Ethan can't do it alone and gets the team back to head to India to prevent a nuclear war. On the way, they find out Brijnath was the buyer and make plans to take out the satellite. William isn't sure about his safety, but Benji assures him that getting to the computer array will be relatively safe, but staying inside will feel like he's getting oven baked.
Alright, I'd be more worried about the heat.
So I'm jumping into an oven, essentially.
Yeah.
Victor calls Anatoly and tells him where Ethan and the launch device are for a price. Ethan and Jane arrive at Bridge's party in a sick ride, and Jane is all dolled up to seduce Bridge. Ethan does a comms check and Jane gets Bridge's attention. Bridge tries to woo Jane with money, but she's pulling a shit test right away to lure him in. Jane is annoyed with Ethan's continuous badgering, and Bridge thinks they have a thing for each other. Benji moves the rover into position to let William jump down without dying. William is acting like a coward and jumps when Ethan shouts at him. The rover stops William from falling on the fan while Jane squeezes Bridge's hand a bit too hard from the shock, and Bridge walks away. Ethan baits Bridge back by kissing Jane. Bridge takes the bait and they play hide and seek, with Bridge giving Jane directions to him. Jane finds him and Bridge leads her to somewhere quiet. Benji stops the fan and drives William to the computer array, but drops him onto hot surfaces until he can fix the placement. William switches the chip so Benji can find the satellite, but William rushes Jane for the codes because it was getting too hot. Jane twisted Bridge's arm because he was getting too handsy and let loose when a waiter showed up. Kurt and Weestrom gun down the security guard to break into the TV station and set up the satellite in position to launch a nuke. The fan suddenly turns back on because Kurt is shutting them out of the server to prevent anyone from killing the satellite. Jane verifies that they are alone before using brute force to get the codes because Ethan was rushing. The system crashed before Jane could get the codes, but Ethan thinks it's a good thing because they can pinpoint where they are now. Benji is having trouble with the rover due to the fan, and William pulls himself to the fan. William wants Benji to max the fan speed, but it is already maxed out, and William pulls off a risky maneuver to get out of the fan room.
More fan! More fan! More fan!
Jane sedates Bridge to regroup with Ethan to go to the TV station. Anatoly spots Ethan in the party and tries to detain him, but Ethan slips away with Jane. Kurt locks Russian Central Command out of the system to isolate one of the submarines and contacts the submarine to fire a nuke to start the nuclear war between the two major powers. They are stuck in traffic when they launch the nuke, and they think the only way to stop the nuke is through the launch device. Jane goes after Weestrom, who is unplugging the servers while Ethan chases after Kurt. Weestrom starts shooting at Jane and slips away when she pushes him. Jane notices she was shot while the others show up. Weestrom shuts off the power and William goes after him because Jane is in no condition to do it. William goes to the electrical room to turn on the power, but Weestrom pounces to prevent the power being turned on. Ethan chases after Kurt when he sees Kurt running towards the building where the helicopter is landing. Ethan catches up to Kurt and tries to take the case from him, but it falls onto a car. Ethan jumps down to retrieve it and jumps to a different platform when Kurt follows after Ethan. Kurt starts beating Ethan when Ethan prevents the case from falling. Ethan beats the case out of Kurt's grasp and tries to retrieve it, but Kurt kicks it to another platform. Ethan slides off the platform and surprise kicks Kurt when he grabs the case. Kurt jumps off the edge to prevent Ethan from getting to the case to stop the explosion. Ethan gets into a car to drive it down and prepares for the crash to save time. The nuke is flying closer to the States and Ethan presses the kill switch, but nothing happens.
Accomplice!
Benji goes over to check on William because he is taking too long and tells Jane what to do when power returns. William is struggling to turn the power back on until Benji shoots Weestrom. Once power returns, Jane inserts the drives and the kill switch works again. Kurt is giving Ethan the death stare when Ethan shuts the nuke down because he can't move and dies. The nuke shuts down and bounces off a building to the bay. Anatoly arrives with his men to arrest them and finds out Ethan stopped a nuclear war between the Russians and the States. After the mission, Ethan meets with Luther to tell him what happened because Luther was tasked to deal with the nuke.
I blew an entire weekend on the bottom of the San Francisco Bay. No thanks to you clowns.
After Luther leaves, Ethan thanks them for a job well done and offers them their next mission. Everyone takes the mission, but William and Ethan reveal to William that he faked her death to ease his conscience because protecting Julia is Ethan's job. William gladly takes the mission and leaves. Julia meets eyes with Ethan and she goes back to what she was doing. Ethan disappears when listening to his next mission to go after the syndicate. In Minsk, Belarus, Benji is monitoring the package being loaded onto the plane and William is badgering Benji that the package is getting away. Luther connects to their call because he is helping out Benji by hacking into a Russian satellite so Benji can cripple the plane. The plane starts moving and Benji's plan flops because he couldn't remotely shut the plane down. Ethan arrives shortly after to jump onto the plane and orders Benji to open the door while Ethan hangs off of the flying plane's door. Benji opens the wrong door and Ethan gets sucked in when Benji opens his door. Ethan sees the chemical warheads and one of the grunts sees Ethan parachuting out of there with the chemical warheads when he was going to check the ramp. In Washington, the CIA director Alan Hunley is pleading to the senators to dissolve the IMF because they are blurring the line and wants to transfer IMF assets to the CIA. William tries to argue for the IMF but can't really say much because they don't have a secretary-director. After consideration, the senators decided to shut down the IMF. In London, England, Ethan goes to a vinyl record store and starts chatting with the shop girl. She gives Ethan a vinyl and can't believe all the stories about Ethan to be true, but Ethan just smirks at her. Ethan watches the debrief and finds out the syndicate discovered Ethan's identity.
Because we are the syndicate, Mr. Hunt, and now we know who you are.
The room starts gassing up after the debrief and Ethan witnesses a man executing the girl before passing out from the gas. When Ethan wakes up, he is chained up in a room and a woman named Ilsa prepares her workstation. A group of men barge in and Janek starts tormenting Ethan because he doesn't think Ethan will turn. Ilsa takes the key and gives Ethan the key after Ethan kicks Janek away. She starts beating the men while Ethan frees himself to help out. They eliminate all the men and escape. Janek opens the door to get a gun from the men waiting outside to go after Ethan. Ilsa separates from Ethan because Janek doesn't know Ilsa helped Ethan escape. The men show up to shoot at Ethan but plot armor saves Ethan from the straight shot to get away. Ethan calls William for extraction and to look for former covert operatives who are presumed dead because they joined the syndicate after faking their deaths. He wants William to find the identity of the men who executed the shop girl and Janek. William tells Ethan the committee shut the IMF down and operations have been handed over to the CIA. Ethan will look for the men and tell William to pretend the call didn't happen. Alan wants to know Ethan's whereabouts because he thinks Ethan is part of the syndicate. William doesn't tell him and Alan will find Ethan to hold him responsible for everything he's done.
He will be called upon to answer for every wanton act of mayhem he is responsible for.
6 months later in Havana, Cuba, the CIA is preparing to arrest Ethan. They slowly go to his room and find the room empty when they breach it while Ethan watches them. The operatives find Ethan's evidence web to find the men. Benji switches off the game when someone walks by to give him mail and he sees free tickets for the opera. He is called to do a polygraph test and Alan starts questioning if he's in contact with Ethan, but Benji can deceive the polygraph.
We are not friends. And I am stuck here answering for him.
Benji goes to Vienna, Austria to watch the opera and a random guy gives him a package. Ethan gives Benji a mission to locate and tag the guy he's after because he's the only lead to the syndicate. Benji is unsatisfied with the role, but Ethan doesn't want to fully drag Benji into this mess. They are surprised to see the Chancellor of Austria there and Benji goes on a mini tantrum but still does what he needs to do. Benji starts searching for the men when the opera begins. Ethan looks around until Benji finds someone suspicious and gets Ethan to check it out. Ethan follows the guy and spots a woman but Benji can't see her. The woman is Ilsa, who is setting up a gun to shoot the Chancellor on the marked note. The man is also setting up a gun while Ethan tries to surprise attack him. Benji's device starts bugging out and he smacks the machine, which causes the platform to rise. Ethan jumps on the huge German guy and notices a lens on him. The huge German guy is just wrecking Ethan with his size and the platform is not helping Ethan at all. Another guy goes to the control room to set up his gun and takes aim. Ethan sees the guy in the control room and somehow frees himself from the huge German guy to kick him off the platform. Ethan takes the gun and starts aiming at the two, but he doesn't know who to shoot, so he shoots the Chancellor. The guards rush to take the Chancellor out to check his wound, but it only glazes him and they rush him to the hospital. Ilsa starts shooting at Ethan when she sees the Chancellor alive. The men shoots at Ilsa, but Benji barges in to attack the guy because Ethan isn't answering him and Benji is getting wrecked. Ilsa shoots the men and Benji brightens the lights to get away. The manager stops the show and guards storm the building. Ilsa sees a bunch of guards when escaping and Ethan offers an escape plan. They go to the roof and Ethan sets up a rope to rappel down, but it was risky because once they rappelled down, the pole fell too. When escaping they see the Chancellor's car explode and Benji picks them up to get away. Ethan starts searching Ilsa for deadly weapons and assumes she is British intelligence deep cover. Ilsa was sent to assassinate the Chancellor to regain the syndicate's trust because she let Ethan escape last time.
Saving your life in London put me in a tight spot with some very dangerous people.
Benji asked about the other two men, but Ethan believes they were there to finish the job if Ilsa failed and to eliminate her, while the car bomb was insurance. Benji notices people following after them and Ilsa wants to make it look like she escaped their detainment to sell it because the people are shooting at them. Ilsa jumps out and the men retrieve her. Ilsa is escorted back to Solomon, who is the boss, and she quickly takes out the escort to take his gun. She tosses the gun to Solomon and tells him to kill her himself if he doesn't trust her.
Trust me or kill me, but if you're gonna kill me, be a man, do it yourself.
Solomon shoots the escort and wants Ilsa to find him, but she knows Ethan will find her himself. Ethan and Benji go to an IMF stash boat and Ethan wants Benji to go back to stay safe. Benji wants to know what's going on and Ethan shows him a bunch of people. Benji notices one of them during the opera, and that person was from the KSA, German intelligence, who was presumed dead until they made it for real this time. Ethan shows Benji a drawing of the men he's after and a bunch of tragedies linked to the men. Benji is surprised, but Ethan believes the syndicate caused these tragic disasters. Ethan thinks the syndicate is the anti-IMF, and once the IMF was discontinued, the syndicate has been escalating unchecked. That's why Ethan wants to send Benji back because of the danger, but Benji demands to stay to help out.
It's not your decision to make, Ethan! Now, you called me because you needed my help. I am a field agent. I know the risks, so I am staying. And that is all we are going to say about that.
Ethan relents and he shows Benji the things he got from Ilsa can track her. Benji uncovers a USB from the lipstick and finds out it's a secure computer facility which can't be hacked from the outside. It's located in Casablanca, Morocco, and they head on over there. Back at the CIA, Alan tells William a shoot-to-kill order will be sent out for Ethan because Benji was spotted at the opera after taking the polygraph test.
Whether Hunt lives or dies is entirely up to him.
You mean shoot to kill?
A whole lot of people are searching for Ethan and Benji's whereabouts while Luther looks for Ilsa because Ethan will meet up with her. It doesn't take long for Luther to find Ilsa at the airport in Casablanca, but she is disavowed. In Morocco, Ilsa left a notice for Ethan and they go inside to see Ilsa training her breath holding. Ilsa tells Ethan the men he is hunting is Solomon, a former British operative turned rogue who is the leader of the syndicate, and the British intelligence won't tell anyone because he worked for the British. One agent working for Solomon stole the data of the syndicate's operative's identity and kept it in the secure facility to blackmail Solomon, but he was eventually killed off from intensive interrogation, which left Solomon in a pickle. Solomon sent Ilsa to retrieve it, but she thinks it's impossible to steal it because of all the hurdles. Benji is glad he gets to wear a mask to get in to transfer the files, but Ilsa shuts it down because the gate analysis security system knows how the agent moves. They try to think of other ways, but Ilsa tells them they can only get in if their profile is pre-installed in the security system. Ethan thinks one of them will need to swim to the ledger to change the security profile, so the other one can access the computer without being caught transferring the files. Ilsa tells him the system will shut down automatically if any metal enters, so no oxygen tanks. Benji believes Ethan can hold his breath long enough for Benji to get through.
Don't worry about him. So I have to hold my breath for 3 minutes. You can do that.
They skydive to the location and shoot a jammer at the camera to sneak in. Benji drives to the location to jam the carting device until they get inside, and he lets himself in after. Ilsa moves the platform in position for Ethan to jump into the current, which carries him to the Taurus, and Ilsa stops the cooling system when Ethan is inside. Benji uses a device to unlock the multiple spinner locks to get through. Ethan looks for the ledger and is about to change the security profile, but the spinning arms knock him away. The workers reboot the cooling device and Ilsa can't stop it on her end. Ethan crawls to grab one of them and lets go to grab the other chip because the current moves the other chip. Benji is about to walk through the gate analysis security system, and luckily Ethan puts in the right chip in time for Benji to walk through to transfer the files. Ethan tries to escape through the exit plan, but he passes out from low oxygen. Luckily Ilsa dives in to rescue Ethan and she zaps Ethan back to life. Benji arrives shortly after to see Ethan regaining consciousness and gives Ilsa a change of clothes. He shows Ethan the USB and Ilsa zaps Benji with the defibrillator to take the USB. Ilsa tries to get into the car, but she isn't registered, and a group of Solomon's men show up to bring Ilsa back. They prepare to return to Solomon and Ilsa knocks all of their Ducatis down before escaping. Ethan wakes Benji up and they go to the car, but Ethan fails the hood slide. Benji isn't sure Ethan should drive, but they spot Ilsa getting away and chase after her down some stairs. Luther and William go to Morocco to look for Ethan, and they suddenly see Ilsa being chased by Ethan, but they were in a big-ass G-Wagon, which made it hard to U-turn. Ethan sees a henchman shooting at Ilsa and Ethan runs him over. 3 henchmen chase after Ethan when he takes a detour, and 2 of them go after Ilsa. The narrow street makes it hard to maneuver, but Ethan gets the opportunity to get rid of 2 of them by smacking them with the car. They put their heads down while going backwards, and the car performs gymnastics by flipping around. The last henchman catches up to them, but luckily William is there to smack him away with the G-Wagon. Ethan sees Ilsa getting chased and hops on the Ducati to catch up to them. They are weaving the highway like maniacs and Ethan gets rid of one of them by getting him to crash when trying to shoot Ethan. The chase is intense and Ethan gets rid of the last guy by nudging into him. Ethan tries to catch up but falls off the Ducati when Ilsa suddenly walks in front of him. Ilsa takes this opportunity to get away. The group regrouped with Ethan and Ethan was relieved Benji made a copy of the files. Luther can't access the files on the USB because of the triple encrypted and only the Prime Minister of Great Britain, who we will call the PM, can access the files. William thinks they are back to square one but Benji figures out the PM is the Syndicate's next target. Ilsa meets with her handler Atlee to give him the USB to regain her British operative identity.
You sent me to do a job. I did it. Now you bring me in.
Atlee forces Ilsa to go back to Solomon to listen to his order to kill Ethan because he told Alan that Ilsa is a rogue assassin to hide her identity. Ilsa takes back the USB and goes to meet with Solomon. Janek takes her gun and USB before she can talk with Solomon. He forgives Ilsa's betrayal because he believes in her potential, but he's growing impatient with Ilsa's unwillingness to join the Syndicate. Ilsa doesn't want to join because they kill innocent people, but Solomon is killing for change because he killed way more for the government.
You kill innocent people.
I help my government kill many innocent people and more, so much more.
Janek reports back to Solomon that the USB is empty and he is furious, but he still needs Ilsa alive to get to Ethan. Ilsa is walking through a busy mall and Ethan with the crew surrounds her. Ethan knows she was just doing her job, but he is surprised Atlee didn't bring her in. Ilsa accused Ethan of giving her a fake USB, but Benji confirmed he made 2 copies. Ethan deduced that Atlee was the person responsible for wiping the files in the USB when Ilsa handed it to him. William wonders why Ilsa is still alive if the USB was blank, and they assume Solomon wanted them to find her. Ilsa gives Ethan 3 options, which are to give her up to the CIA with the USB to prove the Syndicate is real, use the USB to get to Solomon, or go with Ilsa to get away from all of this. Ethan wants to know Solomon's message and Ilsa gives Ethan a phone, which causes a screech. They find Benji missing and Ethan sees Benji being kidnapped. Ethan and William run to the garage but they get away. Luther was tasked to watch after Ilsa, but she disappears when Luther gets close to her. Solomon calls Ethan to demand Ethan to unlock the USB by midnight, otherwise Benji gets it.
Your mission is to bring me the unlocked disk by midnight tonight.
I accept.
William is against taking the PM, but that's the only way to save Benji, and Ethan thinks that could be Solomon's downfall. William calls Alan like a little rat to cooperate with him to save his friends on his terms. He goes back to the safe house to take his things and leaves. Benji is tied up and Solomon gets his men to prepare a strap-on for Benji. A bunch of wealthy people gather for a charity event and William meets with Alan to talk about the game plan. Alan goes to Atlee to tell him the PM is in danger. Later the PM is escorted to Atlee for a matter of national security. Alan tells the PM Ethan is after him because he's been manipulated by the Syndicate. The PM starts questioning Atlee about the Syndicate's existence because he remembers shutting down that project. William asks about Solomon and the PM tells them Project Syndicate was to supply a new identity to recruits from former agents of other nations to eliminate enemies from home and abroad.
It would have made me judge, jury, and executioner with zero accountability.
The PM is ready to leave, but Alan wants the PM to stay put because Ethan is still out there. Atlee shoots the PM with a tranquilizer and Ethan reveals himself. Ethan gets William to get the PM's biometric, retinal scan, and voice prompt to unlock the USB to see a whole bunch of accounts loaded with billions. The real Atlee goes to meet with the PM, but the agents standing guard are confused to see Atlee outside. They rush inside to be tranquilized by Ethan and William. Ethan exposes Atlee covering up the Syndicate's existence and how Atlee frames Ilsa. William gives Alan the credit for saving the PM and a story to back it up. Luther advises Ethan not to go through it when they regroup, and Ethan destroys the USB after looking through the data. Ethan informs Solomon that they unlocked the USB and he spots Solomon's henchman when he goes to the meetup location. Ethan sees Ilsa with Benji, who is acting like a S-bomber, and Solomon uses Benji to speak to him remotely.
This is the end, Mr. Hunt.
We're sitting on a highly sensitive
Pressure trigger, so no sudden moves.
Ilsa was there to eliminate Ethan once Ethan gave up the USB. Ethan starts playing games and gives him an account with $50 billion to let Benji go. Solomon confirms the account and demands the USB, but Ethan tells him his brain is the USB. Ethan plays Solomon into his hands and forces Solomon to stop the bomb from going off. Ilsa takes Ethan hostage to stop Solomon's henchmen from advancing, and Ethan gets Solomon to free Benji from the bomb straps to get away. Solomon orders his henchmen to kill Ilsa, but Ethan stands in their way and lets Ilsa eliminate the henchmen. They run away when they run out of ammo and the henchmen chase after them. They lure 2 henchmen into an alley to take them out by surprise. Ethan pops off the men chasing him in the car and they continue running. Ilsa uses herself as bait when they run out of ammo again and Ethan tackles the guy. Janek shows up to go after Ilsa but he has to take his time because Ilsa was using the pillars to sneak around. Ilsa takes out a knife to attack Janek from behind but surprisingly Janek couldn't spot her from the loose coat. She lands a cut to get rid of his gun but he tosses her away like nothing. Janek pulls out his smaller Arnold knife and begins the knife fight. The fight is pretty even but Ilsa keeps on cutting pressure points leading to her eventual win. Ethan tries to run away but Solomon is on his tail. Plot armor saves Ethan from Solomon's shots. Ethan slides into a hole to escape but he is shot in the leg. Solomon jumps down to get the accounts but the team traps Solomon in a bulletproof box. Ethan reverses the role and now Solomon is trapped in a box filled with gas. They put the box in a police truck and Ethan sets Ilsa free. Back at the Senate, Alan argues for the reinstatement of the IMF after defeating the syndicate. The senators reinstated the IMF and Alan is appointed as the new secretary.
Welcome to the IMF, Mr. Secretary.
Well, that's it for Mission Impossible 5 Rogue Nation. If you got up to this far, here are other recaps you may like. If you enjoyed the recap, please support me with a like and comment reversal. Don't forget to subscribe and thanks for watching.
And he didn't bring you in, even after you gave him a disc.
But you knew I was going to take it to him.
I hope to be enough to get you out.